Well, last week we broke into an AccuSlide Max on a 10-point. Everybody seemed to like that. So today, let's do a couple. I've got a Sub-1 XR to redo, cams and strings. Also a Ravin 500 to restring. So if you're interested in seeing how that's done, hang out. We'll get right to it. Coming up next on Trinity Wild. I've got a Mission Sub-1 XR. We've got to replace the strings and the cams. You ain't gonna believe these cams. Look, I've been doing this a long time. And normally I can look at one and go, I know exactly what happened here. I have no clue with this. When you see the damage to these cams, you'll see what I'm talking about. Check that out. I mean, it's not even round anymore. It's flat here, it's bent up, strings damaged. It's both sides. This is unbelievable. I've never seen cams do that before without just completely breaking, just tacoing in on each other. Now, one of the cool things about the Mission is I don't have to put it in a press. This is called a backout system. So all I've got to do is unwind the limb bolts until it collapses enough to where I can take the cams and the strings off. It's a pretty neat little concept. Let me show you how it works. You can see right there, backout system. So all I'm going to do is take those limb bolts out all the way out, takes all the tension off the limbs and strings, and then get those changed. Now, before I do this, do not, I repeat, do not try this with any other crossbow or any other bow. It ain't gonna go good. You're not gonna find that size on one of your normal hex fold-ups. 1/4 inch is about as big as it goes. This is a 3/8 inch. So if you think this is something you may need to do, you're gonna make sure you need to bring a 3/8 inch Allen to be able to do that. And all we do is just unwind it. You see, I turned that limb bolt all the way out to the edge, so it comes. So now that bolt is right there in the end. So now let's do the other side. And there we go. So now we're loose. We can take everything off. And if you happen to have a mission and you think you might want to do this, make sure you take copious notes. Get some pictures of where these strings go, because this is the most convoluted way to put strings on a cam for a crossbow. So take good notes, take good pictures, get some good video of where these strings go. We'll try to go as close as I can so you can see exactly how that thing sets up, because it is a nightmare to get them back on. Okay, string first. I'm going to take that off, and you can see that loops and comes underneath the cam. You'll see the S on the cam, that's for your string, and that just pops off. And this cam is so bent, I can hardly get, that string doesn't want to come off. That cam is so bent. Man, okay, so that should come off way easier than that. The orientation of the cams too, when you go to put them back on, just look at your XRL and your XRR, and they'll be facing down towards the front end of the riser here, and that's the way that cam orientates there. And again, so you can see the string, how it comes underneath and how that cam is bent. I'll show you a little close-up of this cams. I don't think in this part of the video you can really see how bad these cams are. This is horrible. All right, there's our string off. And let's get the cables now. There's our cable 1. Golly, this thing is bent so bad. How cable 1 actually comes back up through the hole of the cam. So it goes down, wraps around, and goes out to the other side. There we go. We'll get that off. Loosen that a little bit will make that easier. Golly, this cam is just I cannot believe this guy shot this thing, killed a deer with it, shot it some more, and then started going, wow, it's not shooting very well. I guess not. All right, so cables and strings are off. Now we can remove the cam. Easy way to do that is to just pull that off. Now we've got that. Much easier to remove the cams and deal with it when it's outside of that. And it's real easy. It just slides back in. You'll see the grooves. There's the grooves. Now those are just marks on the paint. You don't have to worry about that. But I'm going to check real close on these limbs and just make sure there's no damage to them. If there's that much damage on those cams, there could be some damage on these limbs. So I'm going to check those as close as I can without an x-ray machine. All right, let's get that cam off. All right, and it's a 5/64. So we go all the way down the end because you're going to need one on either side to loosen the axle screws. There we go. All right, axle screw out. And this is interesting too. It does have a top hat like a shim, but the top hat shim goes into the cam instead of into the limb like on the bow. So I think that's kind of interesting. Set that aside. We'll pull that. And I'm going to go ahead and replace those top hat shims as well. Because they sent them. So there we go. We'll put that right there. We get our new cam, and that is the left cam. So make sure we get the right cam, and the letter of the cam faces up. So with the limb that way, that letter will face up, just to keep you orientated correctly there. And we'll throw the new. Oops, that's the old one. Don't do that. Get the new one down there, and put our limb back on. Screw the axle screw back in. You gotta be real careful with these axle screws too, on these mission crossbows, and especially on the bows. See how easy that went in? If it does not go in easy, it's a little canted, and just spin it backwards until it clicks again. And line it up straight, because if you get any resistance as you're replacing that, and that goes for a Mathews limb bolt, that goes for a Mathews axle too. But if you get any resistance putting that back in, stop, back it back out, and make sure it's lined up straight, because if it gets canted, you're in deep doo-doo. I cinch it down just a little. I don't want to over tighten it, because it will seize the cam up. I want to make sure that cam still moves as free as it's supposed to. Yeah. I'm actually going to check with Mathews and see what the correct torque would be on that axle screw. I've always just been told to make sure it still floats free, but I'm sure there's a proper torque amount, so I'm going to check that out. We'll slide our limbs right back in the pocket, and we'll do the other side. Unlike the top hats, these are all going to be the same size, so I don't have to worry about which side they go on trying to tune it. Shifts in. Make sure the letter part is up. Slide it on. Back on. All right, that slides back in. There we go. All right, now time for the fun part. They're not even round anymore. Look at this. Look. Okay, and then look here. Look how the post is pulled up. Is that not? That is insane. So yeah, we dry fired it, but then we harvested a deer and then shot it again and thought, well, it's just not shooting right. Well, I wonder why. Look at that. This is the string post. I mean, I have no words. And you probably can't see it here, but there are, let me try to get it closer. Maybe you can. Maybe you can see these are stress marks. Those little lines, I hope you can see that. The little lines there, those are stress marks. And that means that, oh, there's some there too. Unbelievable. These probably need to go in the Mathews Hall of Fame. I've never seen anything like it. Okay, let's look at this cable. Got to show you a little bit of something. So neither end is served on the strings that they just sent me. So if you were to order strings or get some strings from a dealer just to have some extra ones, that's what they're going to look like. You're going to see one large end and one small end. So the small end is the one that's going to go on your top post, your C2 and your C1. That's cable 1, cable 2, cable 1. So that small end is going to go on that post. So we're going to do those first. We're just going to go up, put that cable on, pull it good and tight through through. And I'm just going to let that rest a second. We'll put the other cable on. They're going to come with a paper clip so you don't get your twist messed up. Large one and a small one. Not a lot of difference on that one, seems like. All right, so that one is going to go on again, top post. Leave the longer one. Okay, and then we're just going to slide that underneath. And we're going to leave that for right now. There we go, just like that. All right, here comes the tricky bit. So that one that rolls, so your cable 2 over here, it's going to go underneath where your axle is. That comes underneath. And I'm going to show you here in just a second how it wraps around the bottom. It's going to come all the way around as it wraps around the bottom up through that hole right there. If you want to make it a little easier on yourself, take your little piece of string, run through it, run through the loop, go around. Think about it as going around the bottom of the axle. I'm going to come all the way around. I'm going to run that string up through the hole. Makes it just makes it a little easier to pull through the hole. There we go. Run it through, snake it through. Remember, that's your C2 cable. So we're going to come all the way under and around, and that's going to hook to the C2 post on this side. And we'll have to make sure we got that lined up right on the bottom, because they will get out of that little groove pretty easily. You can see up and under. You see what I mean by being awfully convoluted here. It is a pain. However, as you can see from the beating those cams took earlier, these things are dadgum tanks. They will take a beating. All right, that's going to come around, and this is where it's going to start getting a little bit tougher. So we can come all the way around. Pull that tight, get all the way around on the C1, pull that out. Now we're good there. All right, so let's just track. So that's the C1 cable. So we'll track that. Comes around, it's supposed to be right under that. Under that. And we're gonna go around. Then it's gonna go underneath the axle. You can see how that's gonna come around and stay in the track here. Wraps all the way around and then comes down through the hole, back up and across to your C1 post over here. And then adding the string to it is pretty simple. We'll flip it back over. String is much, much easier. But still, it's going to come around, up and under from the S post. See, it'll wrap around, come around the cam, come all the way to the other side. Up and under to the S post. Make sure it stays on the track there. Hope you can see that. See how you get two tracks here? That string sits on the top track. The cable goes on the bottom track. And if you put them on and you're not paying attention, that string, see that right there? How it's sitting on the bottom track? That is incorrect. That's got to be on the top track, and the cable rides the bottom track. If you're looking at it from this side and you're tightening up those limbs, cranking those limb bolts back in, and not see that and not realize what you've done. String is in the right place. Okay, now I've got to get my cable slide. That's this right here. Back in. All right, let's tighten these limb bolts back up and give her a rip. So I'm going to put about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in one side and go 5 on the other side, and just double check and make sure everything's still in the track it needs to be. That way I'm not having to start all the way over again. 1, 2, 3, 4. All my cables are still in the track they need to be. That C1 cable was wanting to creep out of there. Got that. Now let's flip it over. Inside the channel. All cables are tracking. There's a track here, and then there's a track here for the string. So you got to make sure the cable's in the bottom track, string's in the top track. Okay. That is looking good. All right, let's finish. Let's tighten it all the way down now. All right, all set. Now, believe it or not, way easier and way quicker than that mission is going to be the Ravin R500. The only issue is, the reason I kind of wanted to do this is show you, I've talked about this press that you can use if you wanted to be able to do all the work on your Ravin by yourself. You don't have to bring it to a shop. You can learn how to do it yourself, but you need this press. This press runs $500 or so. And depending on which Ravin you have, they've got different, what we would call fingers that go on it to compress it. And changing the strings out is really pretty simple, but getting this thing compressed enough to change the strings is a pain. So let's go ahead and get started with it. I am going to have to take the scope off because where the axle is not going to allow me to put the press on it. So I'm just going to have to take the scope off right here. I'd say that guy put a little bit too much torque on this one. Yep. I believe he's past maximum allowable torquage. I want to make sure that I remember that plate is lined up with the back, because I don't want to mess up his eye relief or anything. Get it back in the same spot. All right. Now we can put the press on. All right, so you can see the little divots here. That's what's going to sit right here where the axle goes. So I'm going to turn that down, roll that into it, line up. I'll show you a little bit better here in a second. Line those up on the axle, and I'm going to begin to tighten that down. The little indentation there is lined up right on the axle. And then the bad part is this little old bitty knob to get it turned, to get it pressed where you can put it on. So I need to get a wrench, otherwise I'll be here all day. Hang on just a second. We're out there working on another guy's bow, and Dan handed it back to him, and before he could say anything, dude pulled it back, dry fired it. So that's the first dry fire we've had in here in a long, long time. It's kind of funny. I mean, you can't have nothing. You can't even have a bow shop without somebody dry firing a bow in here. Now we got the tension off the cables. Let me show you something. So there's a plastic piece. Let me show you. These strings are kind of interesting the way they're made. You got your regular string. They come on a little hanger so they won't twist. I don't know that these would untwist. They're nothing but serving. I mean, the entire string, I mean, there's no string anywhere on it. It's nothing but serving. All right, about the only way I'm gonna be able to do this where you can see is to just kind of go handheld here. So I took the press off for a second. So if you can see, there's a post here, and that cable goes from the post underneath the bridge and hooks to the cam on the other side. And then the other piece comes across, hooks to the bridge, and goes through the bridge and hooks to the other side. So the cables, this is how the cables look. So you've got a little plastic piece, and the cables just ride right through. So it's really, I mean, it's really simple. There's not really much you can mess up here. So you have a top set and a bottom set. Trash those. And we'll slide this through. So the cables are going to come through right here. You're going to put the plastic piece forward, and it slides in, then it'll come back. It won't slide in the back. There's a little lip. So you see that. So I got one that goes to the post. And these are tight. When they serve those loop ends, it's hard to get around there. And then that one will go over here to the cam. Then you got the opposite one to the post. And then you'll see this one goes to the cam. All right, first one's done. Let's do the bottom one. I'm hoping you can see all that okay there. And then that's kind of attached to the bottom of the cam. Okay, then that comes off on the other side. We'll just pull through. Like I said, the plastic piece on those was broken up, so no need for that. Trash those. Now the plastic piece will go into the front, and then it slides back. There's a little lip, so you can't slide it in, so you got to slide it in the front. Maybe you can see that pretty good. All right, so this piece go on the post. There we go. And then that's when we'll come over to the other cam. All right, so that right there goes to the post. There we go. Other side, or sorry, post on the cam. And then the other side goes on the post. So just to recap, post, cam, cam, post. And the same on the other side. Post, cam, cam, post. Simple. All right, let's put the string on. All right. String's the easy part. Right there on the cam. Wiggle through there and around. Make sure I'm not twisting it as it comes around. I think I did that the wrong way. I sure did. Dummy. Here I'm sitting here going, this is the easy part. Moron. All right. Sorry. You're going to go that way. Oh, shoot. That's about normal. So, comes around. Again, making sure it's not twisted. But now you can see it better, so it's going to come underneath the little bridge there. That's where the trigger is going to come down and grab onto the string. And if you don't know, see the little worm gears in here? That's how this one cocks back onto the post through the S-curve. And there we are. All right, so now we can begin to let it down. All right, one thing you want to double check is as you're putting it in, is that it's inside that track. I've seen a few of these come in where somebody has told me that, hey, something's, you know, I need some of this or I need some of that, and I'll look and that thing is sitting up here. That is no good. That needs to be in that track, and it's real easy to let that slip. In the tracks on that side, now we can begin to let it down. And again, as I'm doing that kind of slow because I want to make sure that I'm staying in those tracks there. Because if it comes out and you don't notice it, you can actually damage that cable or damage the string. So I want to do that and take my time. And one thing about this press, man, one turn does not move it very far. All right, there we go. So now we're back to tension. Everything's on. We'll go ahead and get this off and do a last inspection before we do a test fire. All right, you're seeing what I'm seeing. Everything's in the track like it's supposed to be. Everything's in the track like it's supposed to be. All right, whoop, there's that broken piece right there. We better get that hanger off there. And, all right, so let's cock it and fire it. Make sure everything's working like it's supposed to. So if you haven't seen the 500, the crank's a little bit different, and you can cock it from either side. And you can see the little worm gear. You can see the gear that runs from top to bottom. So you actually have to reverse crank it to get it back down and cock onto the string. All you can do is rotate it back. It'll come all the way down. Get it up on the table so you can see it a little better. And we're bringing it all the way down. That's what we want. That noise right there. And a little jump. Now we know we're on the string. So what I want you to notice is how much these cams rotate. They were 8 inches axle to axle. Now we're 4 inches axle to axle. So those limbs move quite a bit more than the regular Ravin, but you see how far those cams rotate. So now the bad part, I got to shoot it. I got to tell you, as many times as I've done this, I hate this part. This thing blew up for a reason. I'm sitting here with a bomb in front of me, and I would just as soon that not happen again while it's in my hands. I hate this part, but you have to do it. Put on fire. Buried that bolt, that's for sure. All right. Everything's good, in line, in time. All right, success. Get our scope back on real quick. Line that back up. All right, we're ready to give him a call, have him come pick it up. Ravin 500, Mission Sub-1 XR. So what do you think? If you liked the video today, give me a thumbs up. If you're bored to tears, you don't want to see this kind of stuff, maybe put a comment below. Let me know what you'd like to see. We got pretty good feedback on the last video. I got people bringing in blown up crossbows every day. So if you'd like to watch me fix them, just let me know. I'm happy to do that. And thank y'all for hanging out with me today. And if you like what we're doing, subscribe to our channel. It's free. And we just hit 5,000 subscribers. Thank y'all so much. I'm so excited. I woke up the other morning and saw that 5,000. I can't believe it. I really thought it would take a lot longer than this. But again, that's because of you guys. So many encouraging comments, guys. Thank you so much. It really means a lot to me. And as long as you're enjoying what we're doing, I'm going to keep doing it. And now that the work is over, it's time to get outside and get wild. We'll catch you on the next one. Y'all take care and God bless.